Welcome back to another episode of Burley Fishing. Today I'm excited to start talking about ice fishing season. So snow is coming down. It's just a matter of time before we hit some solid ice on the lakes, and we'll be walking out there and trying to get some fish. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm definitely a lot more set this year. And what I hope to do with this video is hopefully get you set up if you're interested in getting started with ice fishing, or if you're just trying to check the essentials list and make sure you have everything you need before the first hard water starts. All right, so if this is your first time coming to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe. Go ahead and hit that notification bell as well so you can see when I post more videos. It is ice fishing season, so I should be posting a lot more stuff about this, maybe actually some action on the hard water as well. So stay tuned for that. Let's talk essentials, right? What do you need exactly? Well, obviously one of the first most basic things you need if you're gonna catch anything is gonna be a rod and or a tip up, right? Some people do tip up only. I mean, you're more than welcome to do that. I like both. So rod, you're gonna be doing some jigging with it usually. Cut the hole, drop the lure down, usually with like a wax worm or something, and then you're just popping it back up and down or letting it sit until something comes and bites, right? So rod, first and foremost, ice fishing rods, as you notice, obviously are a lot shorter than regular fishing rods. For me, like this will land anything from panfish to bass to even a pike, so that's fine. This is an Abu Garcia Veritas ice. This one is 29 inches, medium. 48-pound test is what it's set up for, which brings us to one of our next most important things. Get some ice line. So you're gonna get something like Suffix is a pretty good brand. I think I've got some fluorocarbon line. So this is my mono. This is a 4-pound test. I have some 6-pound test fluoro. It's pretty much all I got, all I really need. It works for all my rods and most of the fishing that I'll be doing. And then finally, you're gonna need some jigs and something to hold them. Right? So I like these sort of double-sided guys, so I don't have to take up that much room for all the tackle that I have. Anyways, I use this for fly fishing normally, but it works great for ice fishing jigs, and it's not too expensive. So jigs, on the other hand, can be expensive if you're getting, most like this top roll is like all tungsten, so if you're getting tungsten jigs, they're gonna be a little bit pricier, right? So just get a few. Try a couple different colors until you figure out what kind of patterns are really working on the water that you're fishing. So you'll see, like, for me, for example, you're gonna see a lot of chartreuse, glow colored, a little bit of different greens, and maybe even some oranges with some of my flat options there, right? Because that's what was hammering them last year, so I stocked up at the time. We'll see if it works this year, right? So as far as like just actually fishing, if you just want to get out there and drop a line in, you're gonna need the line, the rod, or the rod and reel combo rather, some tackle management, and then to carry it all, something easy, a bucket, right? Super cheap. You can get these at any hardware store around you, so just go pick one up for a couple bucks. Or if you want to be super fancy, get that Yeti bucket for 50 bucks. I don't know, it's up to you, right? Tip ups are pretty cheap, so you can grab a tip up. This is just a basic plastic model. Even cheaper than that is like the wood models, I think. But yeah, not expensive at all. And then you're gonna need for that some of this nylon line. So it's a non-freezing line, which then at the end of that, you're gonna throw on some of your mono or fluorocarbon would be a better idea, especially depending on what's gonna bite. If you're going specifically for pike, you might throw on like one of these steel leaders, right? And then of course you're gonna have that treble. And for me, I like these little sleeves. That's the hook holder sleeves, just to keep this thing from getting all tangled up, because I'm just gonna toss this right in the bucket. And when I carry that out, I don't want it to get all messed up, right? To go with your bucket, you might want to consider a seat. Small desk coming through. So we just set it right on top of the bucket like that. This one's kind of nice because when I'm carrying it, like these are rod holders. So you can just have a couple rods sitting in there a little more protected. But yeah, that's your seat. You're gonna be sitting on this most of the time. If you prefer, you can kneel on the ice as well. It's up to you. I like the bucket. Ice fishing's a lot slower than your normal fishing, so you're gonna want a semi-comfy seat, somewhere you can relax while you're waiting for the fish to bite. right? How do we get to the fish, right? We got to get through the hard water. So next thing you're gonna wanna have is, at the very minimum, a hand auger. Something like an 8 or a 10-inch auger is just fine. I think this is an 8, maybe, can't remember, but does the trick. So obviously that's important. We're gonna be drilling holes, dropping a line down, right? If you wanna get fancier, again, on the higher end, you can get ones that have attachments to go to a power drill, and even higher than that, you have like your gas or electric augers, which obviously make life a lot easier. If you're planning on moving across that hard water and you want to drill a ton of holes, that's probably a worthwhile investment. For me, I'm not really doing that too often, or if I have like a super long day, I'm out with a buddy and we can take turns. Plus, I kind of like doing the hand auger because I get a little bit of exercise and can warm up if it's a super chilly day. So it's kind of nice. Once you drill your hole, something you're gonna want is scooper, ladle, whatever you want to call it, something like this. I prefer metal just because I could, kind of like use it almost as like a spud too and break up the ice because your hole is going to constantly freeze over. That's one of the challenges you face. So something like this is going to help you scoop out that extra ice, try and clean out the hole so you can get more visibility. It's easier to get the line down. Your line is going to like freeze to the floating chunks of ice. That can be a pain in the butt. So if you have a clear hole, then you have an easy time jigging, right? And you're not going to get frozen up, or as you try to like pull a fish through, you're not going to get abrasion on your line that's going to break the line and have you lose the fish. So these are super important. They're also super duper cheap, so not a big deal. Most of this stuff is cheap, by the way. You can get a low-end combo setup for like 20 bucks. If you're on a really nice one, 50, 60, even upwards of $100. That's up to you. Like if you find out you love this thing and you want to do it way more often, sure, start investing. But if you just want to hit the ice for the first time, maybe just get that $20 rod and like a $20 tip up if you want to try and get some pike. Buckets are like $5. The seat was like 10 bucks. The scoop, I think, was 10 bucks. For the metal, plastic ones like this, I don't know, $4. It's super cheap. Tackle and jigs, if you don't go tungsten, are pretty cheap. Just any tackle box is fine. And then line is, usually comes in smaller spools, so it's gonna be like $3 to $6 for a spool of that. Some safety items that you might want to consider: spikes, right? For boots, I kind of like these. They're called stable ice. I don't know, they come in different sizes, but they stretch, right? So they'll fit over any boot you got. And I just like the ice spikes that they have on there, kind of different angles, flat. Had great traction. I used them all last year. They held up pretty good. Only problem I had with the elastic was that it slipped off. I wear like bogs, right? So there's just big fat neoprene boots. So you might have some issues with that, but there's plenty of other brands out there too. And I think these were 15 bucks. So not too expensive. But again, you want traction, so it's ice, right? If you're wearing just regular boots, plan to fall on your butt a few times. I know I have. One safety item you might want to consider, most people really should, is spikes, right? So ice picks, which don't take up a lot of room. So I can't see why you wouldn't get them. You can stuff them in your coat. You should be wearing them generally like around your neck. They don't really weigh that much. They're not too bothersome, especially if you have a hood up or if you're wearing like a balaclava or something. Not a big deal. But the idea is if I fall into the ice and I'm struggling to get purchase, trying to climb out, I have these. I can pull these out and I can stick them on the ice and help myself crawl out. So pretty important safety item. Again, super cheap. I think this was like $6, right? Okay. So worth it for maybe not dying. Another safety item you might want to consider that's not too expensive would be a spud. Okay, so it's a big metal bar, or just any metal bar is fine too. I think these are like 20 bucks at Dick's Sporting Goods, but it's got this sort of angled edge, right? So it's easy to chip away at ice. So what we'd do with this is we would test the ice, right? So it's long enough I can really reach out in front of me without putting myself in danger or having to just stomp my own foot on the ice and hope for the best, right? So we have a little way to test it. And then once we break into the ice, we can also measure how thick the ice is. Ideally, we want to be over like 2 to 3 inches at the very least, and then we know we have safer ice, right? Depending on where you're at and what the temperature is that day, and if there's any flow under the water. So there's other things to consider to try and learn about if you want to get into this. You don't just show up on a lake and go running out there and hope for the best. Be safe, right? Let's talk about like convenient items, right? So first year I went out ice fishing, I had like really cheap bibs, normal like snowboarding winter coat, and it held up okay. Regular gloves, and I suffered, right? You can do that if you're doing a couple hours, no big deal, or if you have a warmer day. But if you know it's gonna be colder or you wanna do a long day of fishing, you might wanna look into some decent Gore-Tex gloves. So these are waterproof, they're gonna stay dry. They're super warm. I think these are North Face. They're still dirty from last year, but yeah, Gore-Tex. So basically it's just protected throughout from water. You're not gonna have any water leaking through and your fingertips suddenly going numb. I might still wear a liner under this though, just to keep it super warm in case I got like a really windy day or something like that. So those are important. Something like a balaclava, right? So I get that face coverage. Again, if you're sitting on your bucket waiting for the bite's been turned off for a couple hours, but you want to stay out, something like this is going to come in real handy just to keep you warm. Again, not too expensive, totally worth it if you're doing longer days. And finally, for warm weather gear, I'll get some nice bibs. So these are my new Striker Ice Predators. They got like built-in flotation, hand warmers, and all this other cool fancy stuff. Those are like 230 bucks. So it's something where if you want the best, go for that. I will say that I spent 40 bucks on a pair of bibs last year that I got from like Tractor Supply Co. And they were fine, but after about 7 hours, I think one day I was out with a buddy fishing for like 7-8 hours. The wind was just going like right through it at that point. I was chilled to the bone. So you might want to consider stepping it up, and something like the Striker Ices are really nice. Once I get a day on the water, I'll do a full review on that, and really any of this other stuff. If you guys want to see a review on it, just make sure you post in the comments below and let me know what you want to learn more about, right? Especially once I get to actually put it to action. A lot of this stuff is newer for me. Just a couple things that will make for a more fun day on the water is some convenience items. Something like a rod holder. So I picked up this guy for like $5 at Cabela's, right? Stick your rod in, boom, there you go. And we're just gonna let that jig hang in the water. So last year I had a few times where I would lay it, my rod just like on my bucket or on the ice next to a hole where that jig was hanging down maybe a couple feet off the bottom. And we knew that the fish were a little more finicky that day, so they weren't taken to an active jig. We were just letting it sit there with a waxy on it and waiting for that bite. Something like this would come in handy. Plus, the more rods you have in the water, technically the more likely you are to catch a fish. So, you know, why not? That's why I also had more than one rod to use this year. Last year it was just one for me. So double up on rods or triple up if you want to. If you have more of these things, it helps you do that. Or if you just want to keep your hands warm and not, you know, have your gloves off actively jigging the rod, you can take a break, throw it on this. Another thing that comes in as a little more convenient is you could look into, versus the standard tip up, go to a thermal tip up, right? And basically you're gonna try to match or get close to diameter of your hole that you're using your auger on. But these are nice because foam on the backside here is going to help prevent the hole that you dug from freezing over, right? So one problem you'll run into, you can see this is open throughout, with these kinds of tip ups is you're going to have to check your hole pretty consistently. So if it's like a really slow day for a bite, you're just going to be going back there, digging out the hole, dropping the tip up back in, making sure that that hole doesn't freeze over, because that's going to be a problem when you're trying to pull the fish through. You're just going to be fighting to like dig out the hole, pull the line in. It's kind of a pain in the butt. So something like this can be convenient. These are a little more expensive. This is a basic one. This is the Treble. So this one's a basic level one. I think it was like 25 bucks. So not too bad. But yeah, if you get into tip up fishing and you want something more convenient, something like that'll do it. Other options in tackle management, you can get this cool little Plano container, fits right into your bucket. Obviously doubles as a seat. You've got tackle tray management right on the top. You can see I've got some tackle ready to go. You got spot underneath to throw your line in, or any larger lures, things like that. Nylon line you need for your tip up. I think I got in this side. Yeah, so in this side I've got my tip up line, and we've got some extra super cheap mono. We've got some, these never work for me, but gulp waxies. And then we've got some hooks and other such stuff. So, I mean, you can keep a lot of stuff on hand, and this way it's not all just swimming around inside your bucket. Finally, something I'm excited for this year that I think is really important is get yourself a nice sled, right? So think about all the stuff I just showed you. Basically last year my move was to have the auger over my shoulder and then have the bucket handle hanging over this piece here. So this would be basically me walking down to the hole, which is, it's fine if you're bringing stuff like water or food, which longer day you're going to. You want extra gloves in case your gloves get wet, things like that. Obviously it's not gonna all fit in that bucket, right? Or if you have a ton of tip ups, whatever. So having a sled, like a small to medium sized sled, if it's just you, larger if you're taking a party out on the ice, then you can fit a couple of buckets in there, right? All your gear, your auger, your spud, everything, right? And then you just drag it down. So if you're trying to stay cheaper with this, just get like a kid's sled, really. But what's nice about sleds specific to ice fishing is that they have this boxier body, right? The treads, so it's gonna go over the snow pretty easy. And they're a lot deeper, right? So my bucket, I'm not worried about my bucket like tipping over or losing any gear out of this thing, right? It's also a lot thicker. I don't know if that matters too much, but it can take a beating and keep on going. And again, not too expensive. Like any one of these pieces other than the bibs was not too expensive. This is like 45 bucks for that sled, I think. You can probably get some deals on them too. But you know, for me, safety and warmth were kind of like the things I prioritize. Gear like the bucket and stuff, I'm not gonna prioritize that. Even the line, you can get some pretty cheap line. My first combo being, this is the 13 Fishing Thermo Ice. I think this thing was 20 bucks on sale at Dick's Sporting Goods. It's like, it's again, $20 combo. It's decent, it's got a good backbone to it, good flexibility, and it's a 24 inch. This was a 29. So it's a 24 to a 29. So I figure this is a heavier duty combo that I can use if I'm, you know, hoping for more bass. This is great for any panfish. Still caught a bass last year just fine. But yeah, have your options open, right? I would say if you're testing it out this year, you can start with some cheaper options. If you know, like, you're into fishing, you're probably gonna be into ice fishing and you just wanna go after it, I'll review some of these items and give you some more feedback, but like, I really like them so far. The setup I have this year is infinitely better than last year. So it's got me a lot more excited to stay out on the water a lot longer. And again, I'll review some of this stuff for you guys next time. Just let me know what you're most interested in seeing in one of my upcoming videos. But yeah, if you guys have any questions on any of this stuff, post in the comments below. As always, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, go ahead and hit the like button. Subscribe, and then hit that notification bell so you can see when I post more videos. Otherwise, we'll see you guys out there.